It was a gloomy April evening in 2015 when the news of the devastating 7.8 earthquake in Nepal shook not just the ground there, but also our hearts. My fiancé and I, both deeply involved in the medical profession, found ourselves glued to the TV screen, our eyes fixated on the unfolding tragedy. As the reports poured in, revealing the grim reality of over 8,000 lives lost and hundreds of thousands displaced, the magnitude of the disaster weighed heavily on us. But for my fiancée, who parts of her family hailed from that very part of the world, the impact cut even deeper. Her emotional response was palpable, her connection to the people affected evident in the lines etched on her face and the somberness in her eyes. We had been together for 4 years, having met during a volunteering event in the inner city, a shared passion that drew us closer. 6 months earlier, I had proposed to her, and amidst our bustling lives, we had dreams of building a family. Our mutual commitment to helping others had played a significant role in bringing us together, and it was her kind heart and selfless acts that initially attracted me to her. In those moments, watching the news coverage, her kindness manifested in an intensified way. Calls started flooding in, and she instinctively answered, knowing people in Nepal who were now grappling with the aftermath. It wasn't a question of whether we should do something. It was a certainty that we had to act. We had previous experiences traveling abroad to assist natural disaster victims, partnering with organizations like Doctors Without Borders. As we contemplated our next steps, memories flooded my mind of the countless times we had volunteered side by side, the unity we felt in our shared mission to alleviate suffering. It was during these times that I witnessed the intensity of her compassion, the genuine care she extended to those in need. Though we had discussed having kids and envisioned a future together, life's demands had continually pushed that dream into the future, and we contemplated on adopting if we got to a point where we couldn't have kids of our own. Now, faced with the Nepal earthquake tragedy, the urgency to make a difference took precedence. We were not just spectators, we were compelled to act, driven by a shared sense of responsibility and love for humanity. Little did I know that this moment would be a turning point, not just for the people in Nepal, but for us as a couple. The gravity of the situation brought to light the depth of her empathy and the strength of our connection. However, Nepal seemed distant to me, and my commitments here in the United States at the time made it challenging to embark on a mission to the earthquake-stricken region. Despite considering myself a minimalist, capable of living out of a backpack, I felt the weight of my responsibilities here. Even though I entertained the idea of making the trip, practical considerations held me back. I thought I had successfully talked my fiancé out of it, believing that volunteering financially was the best contribution we could make. In the weeks that followed the disaster, a relentless stream of calls from that part of the world inundated our daily lives. My fiancé, on the other end of those conversations, spoke passionately about the earthquake, the victims, and the profound suffering endured by the people. Her voice resonated with a deep sense of empathy, and she outlined how she could provide crucial medical support to those in need. As she shared these stories, a growing sense of guilt settled within me, the realization that we were not on the ground doing everything we could to help. Her unwavering dedication to making a difference left me feeling a moral obligation to act. Despite our initial decision to contribute financially, her calls painted vivid pictures of the ongoing struggle and the urgent need for hands-on assistance. It became apparent that she wouldn't stop thinking about or be free from the weight of the disaster unless she traveled to Nepal to satisfy her desire to help in a more direct and impactful way. The realization dawned on me that her kind heart and intense desire to help were not just qualities that had initially attracted me to her. They were the essence of who she was. Her actions spoke volumes, and as she embarked on this selfless mission, My mindset at the time was that I couldn't be prouder of the woman I was fortunate enough to call my fiancée. It was an unprecedented situation in our 4-year relationship. My fiancée was about to embark on a journey without me. If my commitments in the States had allowed, I would have joined her without hesitation. It was only when I finally gave her the go-ahead that I discovered how strongly she desired to go. With a sense of urgency, she hurriedly prepared for the trip, leaving behind many essentials. I suggested waiting for items we had ordered online, but her eagerness to help surpassed any delay. 2 weeks after the earthquake had struck, my fiancée surprised me by booking a ticket to fly to Nepal. Her determination to make a difference, to be a beacon of hope for those affected, became a driving force. As I watched her make preparations for the journey, I couldn't help but admire her selflessness and commitment to alleviating the suffering of others, even at the expense of her own comfort and safety. Upon her arrival in Nepal, the complaints started trickling in. She found herself without this or that, regretting the hasty departure. I tried to remind her to be patient and wait for the ordered items, but the urgency of the situation seemed to cloud her judgment. Given that part of her family hailed from that region, and she was of mixed heritage, she stood out in Nepal. This raised concerns for her safety, and I couldn't help but worry about her becoming a potential target. Moreover, a journey of this nature demanded a significant amount of resources, and I was there to support her financially, providing whatever assistance she needed. Our daily conversations became a lifeline, connecting us across the miles. She would share stories of the people she helped each day, her role focused on assisting the hospital and medical staff. For security reasons, she opted to stay at a Western hotel in a more secure area, a decision that eased some of my worries, but didn't entirely erase the concerns I felt for her well-being. As she navigated the challenges of being in a foreign land, far away from the comfort of our shared life, I found myself immersed in a mix of emotions: pride in her selflessness, worry for her safety, and a longing for her return. Her initial plan was to stay in Nepal for 2 weeks, but looking back now, I realized that our communication began to dwindle. She quickly ran out of money, and I became her lifeline, supporting her every need. Throughout this time, she gave me no reason to doubt her, and I suspected nothing. As she extended her trip from 2 weeks to eventually 6, she had to adjust her return flight and replenish her supplies, all funded by me. Unfortunately, in the midst of my busy work schedule, I failed to notice the drop-off in our calls, or the fact that most of her calls were to ask for more financial assistance. Time seemed to slip away as I juggled long hours at work, and before I knew it, I was driving to the airport to pick up my fiancée. The anticipation of seeing her again was palpable, and we couldn't wait to reconnect on a deeper level. In the next couple of days, our intimacy soared, and it was different from our usual interactions. Normally, I would initiate, but this time, she took the lead every single time. At first, it seemed like the natural result of being apart for so long. It made sense in my mind. She missed me, and perhaps, after 6 weeks without intimacy, she felt like she had some catching up to do. However, something felt off. The intimacy, instead of being a genuine expression of our connection, felt empty. It was as if it had turned into a chore for her, a duty that needed fulfilling. I couldn't quite pinpoint why, but the organic and authentic nature of our closeness seemed to be missing. I brushed it off, attributing it to the long separation and the eagerness to rekindle our physical connection. Little did I know that there were hidden layers to the story, waiting to unravel. I played along, oblivious to any ulterior motives behind her sudden surge of affection. It wasn't until about a month after her return from Nepal that I began to sense something was amiss. She spent an inordinate amount of time on her phone, even when we were together. Her attention seemed elsewhere, as if her body was present, but her mind was distant. That's when I started to suspect that something significant might have happened during her trip. The feeling of unease lingered, and it wasn't until 2 months later that she dropped a bombshell. She was pregnant. Shock coursed through me. How could this be? We hadn't planned for it, and she had always been on birth control. Confused and searching for answers, I asked her how she could have gotten pregnant. Initially, she claimed she forgot to take her birth control pill. Skeptical, I pointed out that forgetting wasn't in line with her responsible nature, especially when we had a steady supply delivered regularly. Her story shifted, and she offered a different explanation. She said her experiences in Nepal, witnessing the earthquake's aftermath and the struggles at the hospital, convinced her of the need to start a family. While this reason seemed more convincing, I couldn't shake the feeling that she should have communicated this profound decision with me. Starting a family is something we had discussed, but making such a unilateral decision without involving me felt unsettling. The gravity of the situation sank in, and the dynamics of our relationship shifted. I grappled with mixed emotions. The joy of impending parenthood tinged with the uncertainty of the circumstances surrounding her decision. The trust that once formed the foundation of our relationship now seemed fragile, as if the seismic waves from Nepal had reached us and altered the landscape of our lives in ways we never anticipated. She couldn't give me a clear answer about why she made the decision to get pregnant, and simply apologized. That apology spoke volumes, revealing that something was amiss, and my instincts told me I needed to investigate further. Restless with suspicion, I knew I had to get to the bottom of this unthinkable situation. When she left her phone unattended for a moment to take a shower, I seized the opportunity to delve into it. Since she frequently used WhatsApp to communicate with her family abroad, I connected her WhatsApp messenger to my laptop browser using the QR code. The shocking truth unraveled before me. My fiancée had met a local guy during her trip to Nepal, and they had started a relationship. In their messages, she expressed her love for him, and they exchanged non-explicit pictures capturing their day-to-day activities. It became painfully clear that they were having an affair, yet she seemed conflicted about being with him, perhaps due to security concerns or the realization that it was all a fantasy. To compound the situation, she'd been sending him money, and shockingly, part of the funds I'd sent her during her trip were used on him. The gravity of the betrayal hit me like a ton of bricks, leaving me grappling with a mix of emotions: anger, hurt, and profound disappointment. The foundation of trust in our relationship crumbled, and the implications of her actions reverberated through our lives, leaving us at a crossroads I never anticipated. It took me 2 days to piece together all the information and grasp the full picture of what was happening. As I connected the dots, everything fell into place, including her post-trip behavior, the love bombing, and the shocking revelation of her affair. The puzzle began to make sense, but one piece still baffled me. Why would she get pregnant? It wasn't until I remembered her hastily forgetting to take her birth control pill that it clicked. Perhaps, in the rush of the affair, she didn't feel the need for contraception, as she hadn't planned on being unfaithful. Armed with this understanding, I confronted her. I laid out all the evidence and explained the sequence of events. She was in shock, repeating the phrase, "Oh my God." I asked her how long she intended to continue this deception, and she admitted she didn't know. She confessed to being caught up in the emotions of the affair, not fully thinking through the consequences. Her shock deepened when I made it clear that I couldn't accept the situation. To her disbelief, she couldn't fathom that I might leave her for having an affair, let alone for being pregnant with another man's child. In her delusion, she thought that I would stay with her simply because of the unborn child. It was as if she believed we were just adopting a child, as we had discussed adoption before. She failed to recognize the significant difference between going on a trip, having an affair, risking my life by having unprotected sex, and returning pregnant with another man's baby. The magnitude of her actions almost deceived me into believing that the child could be mine, a notion I couldn't accept once the truth came to light. The trust in our relationship shattered, and the weight of the betrayal left us both at a crossroads, facing a reality neither of us had foreseen. In her delusion, she saw the affair as an oversight and believed we should focus on raising the unborn child together. I was incredulous. She became angry, feeling betrayed by my decision to leave despite her being pregnant. It was a surreal situation where she saw herself as the victim. When I discovered her affair, most of our family and friends already knew about her pregnancy and assumed it was mine. However, when I asked her to leave, the narrative shifted, and suddenly I became the villain. People accused me of heartlessness, questioning how I could kick out a pregnant woman. What they failed to acknowledge was that the child she carried wasn't mine. The pressure to man up perplexed me. What did that even mean? She needed to face the consequences of her actions, and the responsibility fell on the man who got her pregnant. Frustrated by the skewed perspectives of our mutual friends, I chose to distance myself from them, recognizing their inability to comprehend the gravity of the situation. Thankfully, my family supported me through this tumultuous time, even though they cared for her. After confronting her, she couldn't provide a clear explanation for her actions. She claimed she still loved me, but those words held little significance in the face of such a profound betrayal. Love, in my understanding, didn't involve such acts of deceit and hurt. My dad told me that this was a valuable learning experience, emphasizing that we hadn't yet gotten married, making it easier to part ways. After our breakup, she clung to the hope that I would come to my senses and take her back. When she realized the futility of her delusion, she attempted to damage my professional relationships by sending messages to some of my colleagues. Fortunately, most of them saw through her deceit and supported me. I won't pretend that this has been easy, because it hasn't. I loved her, and a part of me still does. The experience has been traumatizing. I never imagined I could love someone so deeply and be betrayed in such a horrific way. This betrayal has left me jaded, and since then, I haven't welcomed the idea of entering into a serious relationship with another woman. The wounds from this experience run deep, and healing is a process that takes time.